I think of all the genres of anime out there, the hardest sell is always slice of life. How do I convey to people sometimes a very mundane, but also a segment of somebody's life is interesting in some way? And unfortunately, I think a lot of the draw to slice of life is relatability. And I think if people don't have that relatability with the show and the story and the characters themselves, it's sort of a difficult thing for people to really gravitate to. But despite that, I will say, first and foremost, please go watch Akebi Sailor Uniform. This is a series that grabbed me with great characters, a lovable main character, and just so many precious and wholesome moments that either had me in tears or just had me smiling from ear to ear. But this is my review of Akebi Sailor Uniform, or Akebi-chan no Sailor Fuku, a 12-episode series that aired in the Winter 22 anime season, so let's jump right into it. Akebi Sailor Uniform follows, yes, Akebi. This is a girl who grew up in kind of the out-in-the-sticks areas of Japan, such a small village that she actually spent about 6 years of her time in school pretty much alone. She was the only girl in her class. But the only person to really entertain her was her teacher. But she always had dreams of one day going to a big school, a school that her mother went to, and to meet lots and lots of friends. And so yes, we follow her in her first moments where she finally gets to go to that school. But the interesting thing enough is that she always dreamed of wearing a sailor uniform, this uniform that her mother wore when she went to that school. She always loved the design of it and everything, and so she had her mother create this uniform, and then she goes to her first day of school. Well, funnily enough, the school quite a while back gave up the sailor uniform and has actually moved to having their uniform be a blazer instead. But thankfully, the principal decided to let her have that uniform and let her use that uniform, and this becomes sort of a catalyst for her to kind of stand out amongst all the other girls, allowing her this ability to really get in there and communicate to a lot of people and to make lots of friends. Akebi is sort of a very outgoing, outspoken person, and she doesn't let anything stop her from really getting in there and really trying to meet friends. And so we follow Akebi on this journey as she meets different girls, meets their personalities, their likes and dislikes, and ultimately try to get that goal of making many, many friends. So here we start. Andrew, how do you convey to people how great Akebi Sailor Uniform is? And I think, again, the core word that we're going to use here, and I'm probably going to use it a lot, is wholesome. This show is so fantastically wholesome. I think this writer has just a inherent ability of really creating these really cute moments between characters that really demands your attention. Yes, technically a nice addition to that whole formula is the fact that Akebi is a very likable character. She's very positive, she's very sweet-natured, she loves to get out there and really try to find what makes people tick and really nurture it. Her positive nature, her supporting nature is really at the core of every story that's being told, and so that makes her a very likable character and a character you kind of want to support. Additionally, on top of that, having all these kind of side characters who all have their sort of quirks that she's able to bounce off of, creating these really nice, tender, and yes, wholesome moments between these characters that feel very natural and in some cases are very comedic in a way. Having these very kind of goofy and sometimes embarrassing happenstance moments that really kind of make the characters shine in a very natural way. Having a little get together of these girls and suddenly out of nowhere, Akebi, because she ate a bunch of cookies, suddenly burps. And then you have that embarrassing moment between them, realizing that she just did that. They seem very simple and sometimes meaningless, but at the same time, they create a very natural and relatable environment. As I said earlier, this is a very hard sell in the idea that you're basically selling people on just natural moments between characters and just Akebi basically meeting friends. But it's really in those moment-to-moment segments that really do set it aside from a lot of other shows that I've ever watched. Yes, it's a slice of Akebi's life. Yes, sometimes it's the mundane stuff, but at the same time, they're always precious moments. Moments that I want to see these characters happy and enjoy their time together. It almost creates those nurturing moments where they're on the outside looking in going, you can do it, Akebi, you can make those friends. Yes, she's trying to push back a little bit, but keep going. It was a formula that I found in Super Cub last year, and surprisingly enough, Hiro, who is the mangaka for this series, is actually the artist that did the art for the light novel of that series. Not the writer, but I almost feel as if the two of them almost have a similar mindset in how they create characters, create character moments, and create that moment to shine that's not always about some pinnacle moment in their life. It's the beauty in the simple things. And it's something that I give a lot of credit to this mangaka and this storyteller in the idea that they're able to create storytelling that doesn't rely on melodrama. That's a key thing there. As I watched every single episode, the thing that kept bumping in my head besides Wholesome was subtle drama. This writer is so good at subtle drama. It'll introduce characters and then sort of kind of hint at subtle issues that the character's facing, but never really have it in your face and forefront. Rather have the characters sort of have these signs of possible scars that sort of shape them, but at the same time, they're in the moment itself. It's not as if they're going to suddenly say, hey, hold on, I want you all to know that this terrible thing happened to me in the past. No, it sort of kind of hints at it, but it never makes it the reason for the moment. Again, like I said, the writer's ability to not rely on melodrama and rely on these critical parts of their lives and rely on some deep and overly bombastic backstory is something that I actually really appreciate. It's sort of opposite to melodrama. The one thing I really don't like in storytelling, I don't like melodrama. And I feel like this is sort of an opposite of it. It's under drama. It has things like body insecurity and jealousy and stuff like that that's prime for drama, but it never relies on it. Instead, it has the characters growing, not outbursting, which I feel is very refreshing. They're important things to each individual character, but they're not world-changing things. And they're things that these characters don't have to dwell on all the time, and for us to see that, for us to get the point. It drops hints, and then it moves forward. So when you have a character that expresses to Akebi that she kind of wishes that Akebi would read a story to her like she does her sister, and then you have this brief moment where she looks up to Akebi and says mother, you kind of think there's a possibility, there's a little bit of a rift that she has with her mother, but again, you don't have to get into it to know it exists. And while some people on the outside hearing that might think, well, that's just plot holes, it's not. It's just the writer and how they tell their stories. And yes, to add to that, this show was 100% absolutely through and through a gorgeous show. Cloverworks this season went absolutely insane with shows like Dress Up Darling, 24th Ward, and yes, Akebi Sailor Uniform. And they did an absolutely incredible job on this show. It looked fantastic. The animation was fantastic. And a lot of the more key pivotal points that were in the actual manga itself were brought to life with this show. The character designs themselves were brought to life in this show. And there was even these key points in the show where it gets to a very pivotal key frame in the manga, and what they would do is kind of almost do a very still shot of the character with that hyper detail of the manga itself. And I think they managed to capture that art style, even though sometimes it felt slightly jarring. I really did appreciate that little extra. Now, yes, I will admit the character designs themselves early on felt a little off. This mangaka has a very unique style to their characters that was definitely brought to life in this show, and in a way that I really did appreciate. Some of the characters have very kind of narrow eyes, sometimes very slanted eyes that very much so sets them aside from each other. Each character looks very unique, and despite them feeling a little bit off to your typical anime style, I really did grow to love them and appreciate them. Almost to the point where I've become a huge fan of Hito's art style. Every character has their quirks, their very subtle issues that they're sort of kind of showing their scars of. And when you add into that this very unique art style to each character themselves that really set them aside, they all become their own person. And when you have a show that's so focused on characters, character moments, and wholesome periods of time between the characters, I think it all becomes a great equation for something very beautiful, very unique, and very special. And yes, I technically can't do this whole review without addressing the elephant in the room, which is the possible fetishizing of the characters. Make no mistake, this creator loves putting a lot of effort and a lot of detail into how they portray certain scenes of the characters. One notable one early on is when Akebi puts on the uniform for the first time. And again, it's one of those things where when I'm watching it, I'm going, yeah, that seems like it's a little bit close and stuff. It feels a little bit like it's too in that personal space. But at the same time, when I step back, I realize it's putting a lot of attention and detail into it because it's something special. It's a special moment for Akebi. And I think it was something that was solidified when we had this scene between Kojo and Akebi. It was a very close scene. It showed a lot of detail of the characters close into each other. And I felt like that was the point in which it made me realize this is a more of a character personal moment than a fetishizing of it. In an artistic perspective, I kind of seen it as something that was a little bit more special for the characters than anything else. So yes, while there's some outliers, it really did feel like a lot of these moments where most people would probably see it as a fetishizing moment, I seen it as a personalizing moment, a moment of a close and special moment for the characters. Especially when you have these moments between two characters, I feel like it's really trying to portray the sense of comfort that the two of them have with each other. Yes, you can call it Yuri bait in some cases, but I really kind of feel like it's a friendship, a bonding, a closeness between the two of them. But make no mistake, I'm not going to change anybody's minds on that, but that's my perspective of it. So in the end, yes, like I said before, please go watch Akebi Sailor Uniform, just like I did with Super Cub. I think these are both very special shows that present such great moments that I will never forget. So many cute and just lovable moments, embarrassing moments. Akebi for the first time bringing a friend home and then having her little sister embarrass her by slapping her in the bum. This little precious moment where Akebi's trying to help her sister feel like she's a part of this experience by making a ribbon for her. Tanigawa accidentally sending a very inappropriate picture to Akebi. There's so many wholesome and adorable moments in this series that I will never, ever forget. And I definitely recommend people checking out. Again, I kind of assume this is a series that a lot of people are probably going to check a couple episodes out, feel like it's too slow for them. It's not enough action and violence and nudity and all that kind of stuff. But it's a special show in itself, and I definitely hope that everybody gives it a shot. Not everybody has to like it, but I do think it needs a shot. I will never forget this series, and I do hope it gets a sequel. I kind of highly doubt it because it is a more female-focused slice of life, which typically doesn't get sequels, but I'll hold my hope out for it. And if not, maybe someday check out the manga. But that's my review of Akebi Sailor Uniform. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like down below and comment. Let me know if you're checking out the series, if you checked it out already, if you enjoyed it or not. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share this video if you can. Support us on Patreon or through our tips link in the description below. We also have a merch link down there. We definitely appreciate everybody that supports us, and y'all take care.